Hi everybody, this is Jerome Whittington, New York University Anthropology. I was also the climate liaison for the 2018 Displacements Conference. I wanted to say a few things about climate change and academic conferences today. One of the things that we did for displacements was do a carbon footprint analysis to figure out how much carbon emissions we actually saved by holding a virtual conference online. And it turns out it's about 2.2 tons per person who would have gone to that conference. That's a pretty significant number. Ideally, people all over the world should emit less than that over the course of a whole year. Now, reducing emissions from conference travel is something that many scholarly organizations are thinking about. Natural sciences are thinking about this, the geographers are thinking about this. And the important thing to remember is that it's going to be a lot easier to engage with this early on and get comfortable with it and give ourselves some time to experiment with new forms. If we try to wait and do this at the last minute, then the options that we have are going to be a lot less attractive, and it's going to be a much steeper learning curve. I think that the AAA should set a goal, and it should be a real goal, to reduce in-person conference attendance at the AAAs. It doesn't need to be an extreme goal. I think maybe 5% would be enough. But it needs to be a goal that's substantial and that forces us to come to terms with real techniques for grappling with this problem. We cannot simply set a goal to supplement current attendance by streaming technologies for those who would not have come otherwise. It needs to be a goal to reduce in-person conference attendance. There are a lot of good ethical and political reasons to act now. There's not really any good ethical argument for not acting. In particular, I know that the conference emissions that we are responsible for may seem like a drop in the bucket. But I think it's important to remember that a lot of different organizations use this excuse. The fact is, anthropologists are part of a global elite. We fly a lot. We fly a lot for our work. It's up to us to come to terms with those emissions. Nobody's going to do it for us. Furthermore, anthropologists should be in the forefront on this. We have the intellectual resources to do it. We are scholars of the relation. We are people who have many tools for grappling with how to concretely do this. It's not just a technological problem. It's about creating new forms of scholarly exchange. This requires experimentation, trial and error. It requires a lot of dialogue. We need to grapple with the complex functions that conferences actually fulfill and not simply treat this as a technological fix. Another thing that we learned during displacements that's very important is that conferences really have a lot of distinct constituencies. There's a lot of complex reasons why people go to conferences, and conferences are important for very different reasons depending if, for example, you're part of the central core of the discipline. Other scholars who are more marginalized have a very different relationship with conferences, and these include a lot of different functions that we need to be aware of and we need to come to terms with. We can't simply embark on a one-size-fits-all type technological solution. The last point that I want to make is that quantifying emissions for the AAA as a whole is an important thing to do. The AAA should embark on a professional carbon footprint analysis for the organization, including the annual conference and including the airline travel required to attend the annual conference. Organization-wide carbon footprint is a basic minimal level of responsibility in line with the normal practices of typical large organizations. The AAA could easily do this. It's not necessarily expensive. It is a basic level of organizational responsibility. So those are my recommendations: to treat this as a form of experimentation, to come up with new forms of scholarly exchange that are productive and valuable, to pay attention to the diverse constituencies and diverse functions of an in-person conference, to set a real goal to reduce in-person conference attendance, and lastly, to do an organization-wide carbon footprint analysis that includes the annual conference and includes the airline travel required to go to the annual conference. Thanks very much.